I think we are live, guys. What is up? Looks like I need to change up my tags here. Sorry about that. Disney Plus, Star Wars, spoiler talk. Sorry, guys. I went live and realized all my tags were for the last live stream that I did here, literally like years ago. So we gotta like. All right, there we. Yep, now that's getting too dark. Gotta figure this out. All right, I think that's pretty decent. How is everybody tonight? Not sure if I've actually got anybody on here yet, but that is okay. It has been ages since I did anything on this channel. Let me check real quick if I've actually got. Since I did any. Okay, nice. Yes, I do have some good sound. Brilliant. Apologies for that crazy little intro, but I just finished watching Ahsoka for the first time. But I just finished watching the Ahsoka premiere, and it was much better than I expected, honestly. I am coming at this from somebody who watched all of Clone Wars, loved Clone Wars, particularly has watched the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars multiple times, and I'm somebody who's watched Rebels through twice. The first time I thought it was okay, but watching it in preparation for Ahsoka, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought that I was going to. So I really came to enjoy and really like Rebels through kind of this process of prepping for this video. Hang on, I want to try and shut off a setting real quick. There we go. Okay. Sorry, just had some weird stuff going on my monitor, and it was really distracting me because that is how we roll here. But yeah, so my thoughts on Ahsoka are really, really positive. I felt like the casting is really good. Probably Hera's the one that took me the most time to kind of get used to her being a little bit different. I feel like the voice actress and the animation just had such a distinct style with her that it took a little bit to get used to a little bit of a different feeling Hera. And that's okay though, because this is roughly 6, 7, 10 years. And I'm trying to think how. Let's see, Rebels ended like 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, and then Mando took place like 6 years after Revenge of the Sith. So it's like 10 years later. So yeah, you'd expect Hera to be a little bit different. So I'm okay with that. I feel like Sabine, spot on, really, really good casting. Really love the performance. It feels very, very Sabine a few years on. I thought it's really interesting them throwing in the Ahsoka training her kind of thing, where it seems like they sort of picked up on the little thread in Rebels where Kanan taught Sabine how to use a lightsaber. It didn't really seem like she was force sensitive, and they kind of reflect on that, with what the droid, and I can't think of what his name is, said, but basically that she's literally like the least force sensitive student that he's ever seen by a long shot. And I thought that was, that kind of fit. So it's like kind of like Ahsoka's trying to train her, but it's not really quite working. And then at some point they had sort of a falling out. I definitely thought this was really, really interesting in the sense that definitely thought this. Sorry, I'm like watching the stream. It's been a while since I've live streamed too, so I'm getting kind of a little distracted, kind of trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. Because honestly, I really haven't had Star Wars that's inspired me to make anything in a very long time. I kind of lost a lot of like the passion and momentum after Obi-Wan, because that just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, honestly. It just wasn't at the level that I was hoping that it would be. So yeah. But Ahsoka so far is really, really good. Um, it's definitely, honestly, better than Mando season 3. I feel like Mando season 3 had some wonderful moments and kind of lost its way, particularly when Jack Black and Lizzo popped on screen for that episode. That's kind of the thing that pops into my head when I think of season 3 of Mando the most. That was like the standout moment of just weirdness, honestly. And that's, that's all good. Um, but do we have any views? Nope, no viewers. Nice. I mean, I wouldn't expect there to be viewers because my channel is like 48 subscribers and I haven't uploaded anything on it since, gosh, when was the last time I uploaded on this channel or went live or anything? Let's see. So my last upload was, oh yeah, it was Willow. Willow really killed this channel for me. I completely forgot because I just lost all motivation. I was like, oh my gosh, this show is terrible. I can't even deal with it. I'm so happy they pulled it down from Disney Plus because it was bad. And then the last live I'd done was 11 months ago. So I'd only done a couple of lives. So yeah, so really it's been like 7 months since I've done anything with this channel, so I wouldn't expect there to be a lot of viewers. That's totally fine. If nobody watches this at all, that's okay. It's really rambly, and I am totally aware of that and down with that. If I end up, doing more of these after episodes of Ahsoka, I'll try and maybe organize them a little bit better, but I probably won't, and that's okay. But let's go ahead and think like, what are the things that I really liked? Going back to casting, I mean, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, great as she has been since her introduction in Mando Season 2. She was great in Book of Boba Fett. She is great here, has not lost her touch. I really like the direction. To me, it does not feel cheap. There was maybe one or two shots that I could tell were the volume, but most of the time, it looks really, really freaking good for a TV show, certainly a TV show budget. Like it feels like Star Wars, it looks like Star Wars. It's definitely at least like Mando level, maybe even some of it's a little bit better, feels a little bit more high production value. I'm hoping that that will continue throughout the whole series. I'm hoping it's not like they just like front loaded the first 2 episodes to get a really positive initial reaction and then it kind of is going to go downhill like Book of Boba Fett. Fingers crossed that that won't be, but I've got a lot of faith in it, honestly, because it's pretty clear, like I could feel like, okay, this is Dave Filoni's baby. He really loves this. He loves these characters. This was something he created all of this. Certainly Ahsoka, very much his baby. Ahsoka's been his creation for like the last 15, 16 years, whatever it's been, since her debut in the Clone Wars movie. And he's really guided her through, all of the animation, through her transition into live action, and he's show running the show. So of course, like she's going to be handled with care, Sabine's going to be handled with care, Hera's going to be handled with care. I love Chopper. He wasn't in it that much, but I do feel like Chopper really, really good. Like he just phenomenal. His transition to live action was probably the most seamless. They were able to make him cartoony enough, but also that he feels like he fits in the real world. Just like it was a really seamless, really nice transition that I actually didn't know how that was going to go, but really awesome. As far as the dark side characters, nice to see Morgan Elsbeth back. See, it looks like she's going to have a lot more to do. And that was really interesting. Our 2 Sith characters, I'm blanking on their names at the moment. Let me jump over real quick to IMDb and see Ahsoka. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh, I didn't realize the droid Hu Yang is played by David Tennant. That's awesome. I hadn't actually realized that. That's really cool. That's part of why he's so fun. I love that droid. He is so fun. But anyways, jumping back, um, it looks like the apprentice is named Shin Hati. I think she's just been called the apprentice. Oh, and Balon Skoll is the older Sith, and unfortunately Ray Stevenson did pass away. But it seems like this is a really beautiful, like a great last performance for him. He is doing a fantastic job. I'm really interested what's going on with his apprentice, with Shin Hati. Feels like she just kind of shifty. She's a little crazy, maybe not quite all right in the head. Very interesting. I'm always watching really closely when she's on the screen for all like the little cues that I feel like she's giving in her performance, trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, really, really cool. The action is definitely steps above, I feel like a lot of the other Star Wars live action shows, certainly the lightsaber duels. Like the lightsaber action that we saw in Mando Season 2 with Ahsoka. I feel like this is just like levels above. I don't know if they did a lot more training or what the case may be, but I definitely feel like it was so much better than what we got with just a little duel between her and Morgan Elsbeth in the in Mando Season 2. And I feel like, I'm trying to think, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, I definitely feel like these duels are, in general, much better. I did feel like the duel between Sabine and the apprentice gal, pardon me, was just a little bit clunky, but I think that that was by design. Sabine hadn't practiced for a long time, and I don't think that the apprentice is like overly well trained. So I definitely feel like that clunkiness was not bad, but like anytime Ahsoka is fighting, like it's badass, it's fabulous, it is awesome. I freaking love it. Love to see it. So yeah, the action really good. Kind of what we've seen, a little bit of like, I guess we call air battle, space battle, where Hera, is flying to get the tracking device on that thing. Looked fabulous, looked really good. I feel like, the money is on the screen for this show, which I don't know what the budget was. I don't know if it says what the budget was. Can definitely see if I can find what that budget was. I don't see it on IMDb, so I'm not sure what, like how much they spent on this project, but you can definitely see the money on the screen, which makes me really happy, because it always sucks, like Rings of Power. Well, I didn't hate the show as much as a lot of people did. It definitely felt much cheaper than what the budget was, or Halo, which was a terrible show. Oh my gosh, I hated Halo. Couldn't see the money on the screen at all. It was really freaking frustrating. Yeah, it was bad. There were a few scenes in Halo that looked really good, a couple of the battles, but a lot of it just looked so cheap, and you're like, why? Where did all this money go? Why was this such an expensive show when, they don't show the Covenant very much, and a lot of times when they show the Covenant and when they show the battles, it looks weird and cheap and strange. But that is not what we're talking about. We are talking about Ahsoka. And yeah, so money on the screen, looking pretty good. The only thing that I feel like maybe didn't look quite as good is like some of the Leku head tails. Didn't necessarily look the absolute best, or I think the Togruta head tails have a different name than the Twi'lek head tails, but now I can't remember for sure, but those didn't always look quite right. They sort of looked a little bit costumey in a couple of the close-up shots, but again, not really bothered because the story is good, the action is good. The character work is good. I'm really curious kind of to get a little bit more into what went on between Ahsoka and Sabine, because from Rebels, you know, we had the Battle of Lothal, and then we cut to after the Battle of Endor, and to the scene which I think we sort of got recreated in the show, where, you know, Sabine's looking at the artwork and then Ahsoka shows up. You know, Ahsoka's costuming was different, so I don't know if that's not actually the scene or if they just decided to go a little bit of a different direction with the costuming and not worry too much about the continuity. Because as I remember from just having finished the show a few days ago, Ahsoka had like that staff and like the white robe and looked super like mysteriously Gandalf. Whereas in the Ahsoka show, she didn't have the big staff. Actually, I'm gonna look this up. Ahsoka and Rebels. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. She did have like the white staff and the white robe. So it was a different look than what we got in that scene in the show, where it was like more of a gray robe. There was no, she didn't have any staff. You know, Morai was not, I can't remember if Morai was present in Rebels at the end, but Morai was definitely not there. I don't know if Morai is going to make an appearance in the show. That would be really cool. I'd be totally down for Morai in the show, but it's interesting. That I did find interesting. That took me out of it a little bit. Because again, I was a little unclear, is that supposed to be the scene? It seemed like the scene. It seemed like, you know, exactly the scene, exactly the way it played out, except that Ahsoka looked, you know, a little bit different. Didn't have the same wardrobe, didn't have the staff. So not sure what's going on there, but, you know, that's really not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna, you know, be one of those nitpickers. Like, if the show is good, change a little bit for live action. It's not a big deal. I love the moment when, I believe it was, yeah, Hera kind of brought up, you know, Anakin, you know, something about, you know, I'm sure that you were not, you know, difficult for your master or whatever. And Ahsoka had that, you know, reflective moment back on Anakin, on leaving the Jedi Order. That was really nice. That was a really nice little moment there. Really enjoyed all of that. As far as, what am I thinking? Just lost my train of thought. Let me know in the comments like what you thought of the Ahsoka premiere, if you enjoyed it. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the one thing that kind of bothered me in these two episodes, and that was that the lightsaber stab when the Sith apprentice stabbed Sabine. This seems to be like a Disney Star Wars thing, and I think that's why it bothered me more than anything else, because really since Rise of Skywalker, like, that's just, lightsaber stabs don't do anything to anybody. You know, we had Kylo get stabbed, then Rey could just heal him, and then it was really egregious in Obi-Wan Kenobi with Reva getting stabbed not once, but twice in her life and surviving both of them. So that was kind of annoying, that was frustrating. And I think that that's just why I didn't love it. I don't know that, you know, if I didn't have that extra context of just being annoyed by so many lightsaber stabs, not doing anything to anybody, that I would have been bothered by that. But in this case, I was bothered by that simply because of that context, if you will. It's kind of like, all right, are we really freaking doing this again? Are we really freaking doing this? But other than that, and again, that's something that I can overlook. I can overlook that. I can be like, okay, you know, it's fine. It's fine that, you know, we're going to have one of these in. That's just what Disney Star Wars does, is it loves to stab its people. It's not as into chopping off limbs as George Lucas Star Wars was. So I think that would have been kind of a cool character direction to go actually would have been like have Sabine like lose a hand or lose an arm or something and have to like deal with getting it like rebuilt or something. And I mean, you could have done that relatively cheaply if we're thinking budget wise. I mean, we saw how they handled it with like Luke in the 70s, you know. They had like the one cool shot of you know, like the droid redoing his little arm in Empire. You know, we had like the cheap, you know, like him hiding his hand, like, ah. And then we had, you know, in Return of the Jedi, he pretty much like he always wore a glove. Easy. You know, same kind of thing could work for Sabine. The technology is such. I mean, we saw in Book of Boba Fett how much they could do with like the mods and what they did with Fennec Shan's whole like rebuilding her, all of that kind of stuff. So that would have been a really interesting direction to go with Sabine and like have it be a long-term consequence versus her just getting stabbed and then waking up in the hospital and then kind of having, you know, just kind of going on like nothing had happened. So that's really my only gripe about the show, like of significance, and it really is not that significant. I feel like otherwise, like the show went much better than expected. Like after Obi-Wan, I was very, very concerned, honestly, and Book of Boba Fett and Mando Season 3. It felt like, the quality of these shows is dipping just a little bit, or a lot. I mean, Book of Boba Fett had some cool moments, don't get me wrong, but on the whole, it definitely felt very cheap, not cohesive. The story structure was not really that great. And it didn't give us that Boba Fett that we really wanted, that we got to see in Mando Season 2. Like honestly, I think that would have been better just to like leave Boba in like Mando Season 2, and just have him show up every once in a while, be still kind of mysterious, really badass, and like that would have been awesome. And Obi-Wan, I feel so conflicted about Obi-Wan. Because I want to love it more than I love it. And I wanted to just love that show and be like, holy cow, this is amazing. Best show ever. And, you know, I didn't. It had a lot of problems. It was bloated. The story structure was weird. You know, young Leia was great. Her and Obi-Wan's interactions were great. All the stuff with Reva. I was really like, if you look on my channel, like I had some videos that I think are still up where I was like, Reva's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited for Reva, you know. And then, yeah, I talked about like the Reva spin-off show maybe. Let's see. I feel like I think I had like, yeah, Obi-Wan predictions I think I talked about. Reva. And I think in my Kenobi trailer reaction, but I was pretty positive on it, and then it just was a very disappointing storyline. And I was honestly very underwhelmed by the Obi-Wan versus Vader fight. But I think some of that was my expectations, because like, how do you top the Obi-Wan versus Anakin in Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar? Anything is going to feel kind of cheap compared to that. And I know Kathleen Kennedy had called that the rematch of the century. And, you know, so I was expecting that level of crazy, and it wasn't. And so, you know, I was like, okay, that's okay. Not the end of the world, but yeah, I was not overly impressed with that, we'll say. I'm getting way off topic, way off topic for Ahsoka. But yeah, overall, very, very positive, very intrigued by the show, very curious where it's going to go. We didn't see Thrawn yet. Obviously, we're going to see Thrawn at some point. We've seen him in the trailer. But I'm pretty excited for seeing him, But I like that we didn't immediately jump in with him. We don't know if Ezra is alive. You know, what little we saw of Ezra in live action in the little hologram was cool. I feel like that casting was pretty good. It definitely felt right to me. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of acting, so we don't really know, you know, if we're gonna like if how that actor's gonna do. But really enjoyed him so far. So yeah. So I think that that's kind of gonna go ahead and wrap up my thoughts on Ahsoka. Holy cow, I've been talking for a bloated 25 minutes, probably said 10 minutes worth of important content. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick live as a way to get content out there, and maybe revive this channel a little. Just put out my thoughts on Ahsoka because I was actually inspired by Ahsoka to make more content because it was actually some really freaking good Star Wars, which is not always the case anymore. Anyway, have a good one. May the Force be with you. Ending our stream.